Hello, my name's Michael Conneely and I'm bringing you the February 2019 Astrology and Healing newsletter. And so I'll be talking about the energies coming from the planets into our minds, into our lives in February 2019. And my wife Maggie will be presenting one of the many healing modalities she does. Because in fact, we're recording this video from our healing centre on the west coast of Ireland, near Sligo. So, I want to start with a big question. And perhaps I'm prompted to ask a big question because of the great conjunction Pluto-Saturn-Ketu that's developing in Vedic Sagittarius now, with a malefic conjunction of Mars and Rahu opposite it. So the big questions are, well, why are we doing this? And the answer is there's absolutely great value in developing skilled perception. Skilled astrology perception puts us in touch with our essence and helps us understand what is our proper life path course at this time. And also, astrological perception can show us where we need to heal something in our lives that is making us act inauthentically for our life essence, making us live our life in the wrong way. And astrology can also show us how power loss, soul loss, or fear are making us ill. So I'm asking you to listen to this video, but also to read the accompanying blog, which is considerable and has charts for the start and the end of the month and for the full and new moon in both Vedic and Western astrology. And another of the reasons why it's so valuable to have an astrology reading from me or learn astrology on one of my courses is that astrology can point to special karmas, special challenges we have to work with in this life, but also particular sparks of achievement that we actually incarnate to manifest. And of course, as irony has it, there's often built-in blocks that have to be worked with, maybe even for years first. So basically, Vedic astrology declares our incarnational life purpose, and around that can be constellated all the circumstances that click into place at birth and at predictable unfoldment times, which slot into place the particular incarnational life purpose which we were born to work with this time. Now, Western astrology, and I particularly teach psychodynamic Western astrology and also evolutionary astrology. Well, Western astrology, using the tropical zodiac, declares our psychological self, our psychological personality, our egoic self. And so where Western astrology deals with our incarnational life purpose, it in fact deals with it describing the psychology of that and how we'll react to it and work with it psychologically. That's the difference between Vedic astrology, which must use the sidereal zodiac for full and accurate declaration, and Western astrology, which uses the tropical zodiac normally. So I believe there is great value in me sharing with you the astrological energies of each month, because that way both of us improve our identification of the energies that are running depicted by the stars and the planets. Now, it's not at all that the stars or the planets control our lives. Basically, our lives and the stars and the planets are all unfolding according to the same unfoldment of energy, as above, so below. So the map of the monthly positions of the stars and the planets is a very good guide to exactly the same unfoldment of energies that is going on in our bodies, in our minds, in our consciousness. And the reason it's the same is that what is ultimately happening is the divine unfolding his or her light, and everything, the planets and ourselves included, is part of that unfoldment. And we all work with different facets of the great unfoldment for spiritual learning, for the evolution of the divine. So, yes, and another value of looking at the monthly astrology, and I've put this in the blog post too, is that astrology, when well done, can allow us to develop better perception of the true nature of the battlefields of our lives. You see, all of us have quite a number of battlefields in our lives. But our task is not to develop a low consciousness reaction to those, endlessly dwelling on them, moaning about them, getting enmeshed, lashing out in retaliation. We're actually here to be spiritual warriors. We're actually here to develop a divine perception of the true nature of each battlefield in our life, and that way we grow. And indeed, I teach the spiritual paths of the ancient Norse and the ancient Irish, and they were so attuned to the issue of right understanding of the battlefields. And right understanding can connect us to the divine, so that we can become one with the divine to an extent. We can share the consciousness of the divine. We can have energetic, fuller connection with the divine. I've just been writing a piece for about Freya, the goddess of the ancient Norse and Vanir, and one of her gifts was the mead cupbearer, and that equates to Soma in Vedic astrology, taking the drink of nectar, which allows us to become energetically alive and connected to the divine. And if we develop our astrological perception, it is like drinking Soma to a level. We can learn so much. We really can, if we develop Vedic astrology as it was brought to us in the West by magnificent forebears of, the bringers of Vedic astrology, and by the higher sorts of Western astrology. So I'm saying that immense insight can come through developing skilled, enlightened perceptions about the energies running at any given time. And these energies, as I said, are actually mapped by the positions of the stars and the planets. So we need to listen to the wisdom that it is possible to gain from astrology. But we mustn't just, go in for astrobabble or mentalistic declaration or formulaic declaration. We must seek to have genuine spiritual declaration and Check out whether it feels authentic. Become attuned to the truth in our body at any given time, because we're really in for trouble if we ignore the messages of our body and slam on with a global formula or remedies that turn us into robots, or the job that turns us into a robot. So in other words, yes, listen to the astrology, but don't use it as an abstract formula rat race, intellectualizing. Check out that it connects to the wisdom of your body. Check out that it connects to your intuitive and shamanic dimensions. And certainly that's what all my readings and courses are about. And I feel very proud of the assistance I'm increasingly able to give after doing this for 23 years, all over the world. So let's move on to the specifics of the astrology of February 2019. And I've selected 4 main points for emphasis. Now, first of all, Chiron is entering Western Aries this month. Now, Chiron is our existential wound. It is immensely valid. It isn't in Vedic astrology, and that's one of the reasons I always combine Western and Vedic astrology, because Western astrology clearly has additional dimensions of consciousness, in addition to the sheer vastness, and I mean that, of Vedic astrology. So Chiron is about our existential wound, and the point is that babies born, from when Chiron enters Aries, will have a wound to how they express themselves, too much or too little. And of course, when you're assessing the Chiron existential wound, you also, of course, have to look at what house Chiron is in your birth chart, because the house declares the area of life. And you also have to look at aspects formed to Chiron from the other planets to develop the full declaration of the nature of your wound. So the second point is there is liberation revolution power coming if we're open to it, more so for some than others. And that is to do with Mars, Uranus and the nodes of the moon. Mars enters Vedic Aries now, and he's moving up to join the lightning revolution of Uranus. And this is so important. The nodes are building up to change Vedic sign. It actually happens on the 6th of March, but I can certainly feel it coming. It's so important to be aware of the house that the nodes of the moon are moving into. What house is Rahu moving into in your Vedic birth chart? Therefore, what area of life will suddenly become, and is already becoming, tremendously important. So mine is the 12th house, and I can feel it coming, and I'm beginning to develop, as I sort of mentioned, vision journeys to contact the Irish and Norse gods, just as part of my work. But I'm learning so much from those ancient wisdoms. Rahu moving into the 12th house. And that, of course, means that Ketu is moving into the 6th house. So you have to look at, in my case, so you have to look at the area of life that each of the nodes is moving into to understand the potential benefits, the potential dangers. And the next thing to say is that Venus is very complicated this month. He actually makes 3 malefic conjunctions. And so check out what house the Venus transit is in, and Venus type affairs, which are obviously love and beauty and art, creativity, and indeed vehicles. All of those, log the movement of Venus across 3 conjunctions, and take care, develop awareness, utilize the understanding. And the fourth and final summary point is the Great Conjunction. Well, as I mentioned in the January newsletter, a Great Conjunction is forming in Vedic Sagittarius, particularly in Purvashada Nakshatra. And this is the combination of Pluto, Ketu and Saturn. So it's massive. And indeed, shortly opposite in Vedic Gemini, Rahu and Mars come together. What an opposition. And so people with planets in Vedic Gemini and Sagittarius, and particularly Purvashada Nakshatra, do need to understand what the nature of the Great Conjunction is. And that I went into that in my January newsletter. So, and indeed all of us are affected by it because, of course, Vedic Sagittarius is a house in your Vedic birth chart, and therefore it is a specific area of your life that will be massively affected. The same is true for Vedic Gemini opposite. And to give you an idea of the energy of this nakshatra, of this Great Conjunction, Saturn, Ketu, Pluto, the last time it was here in Vedic Sagittarius, Martin Luther nailed his theses to the cathedral door at Gothenburg, and the Catholic Church was wiped out in Northern Europe. It's a considerable energy with great potential for reformation in our consciousness, in our lives. And of course we could handle it terribly badly as well. So, do read the blog, because it now goes into so much more detail. And then there's all the charts at the end, and also there's Maggie's portion of the blog post about her healing work. So just to summarise the topics, the astrology topics covered by the blog, there's the nodes changing sign in considerable detail, and how you need to get into your body to be sure what's going on, because at this time there's a huge shift in focus going on in your life, from Cancer to Gemini for Rahu, from Capricorn to Sagittarius for Ketu, the South Node. And that means, as I said, there's a shift from one house and life area to a different house and life area. And it's no good saying, I shall stand firm, my life is defined as how it has been, because you're setting up a situation for meltdown or collapse, because you will be living a life that is inauthentic to the divine unfoldment energies. You will be living a life that is inauthentic to the new energies situated in your body, and you'll be living a life that is inauthentic to the new state of consciousness created by the new energy flow in the cosmos. So the next point is about the position of the Sun, and then the next point is about the lunations, and the chart for each is at the end of the blog post. So the new moon is on February the 4th at 21 Vedic Capricorn in Shravana Nakshatra. And to summarise what's in the blog, listen now. And that ties in with what I was just saying about listen to your body, listen to the whispers of your soul, because Shravana is about listening and making sure that your consciousness and your actions are in line with the divine unfoldment, which of course has running within it your own life unfoldment in relation to your incarnational life purpose, in relation to the burning of our negative karmas, in relation to the manifesting of our positive karmas, and in relation to the manifesting of the special skill of identity and achievement that your soul chose for you to manifest in this life. So we then move on to the full moon, which is in Leo, in Magha Nakshatra. And just a note that some people are quite strongly negatively affected by full moons. You know, I deal with a lot of people, and so many people seem to start shrieking at, you know, quite a proportion, shrieking at full moon. You know, hear this statement that the full moon's on February the 19th. Take it easy. Don't go in for denunciation and attack. If you're one of those small percentage of people who are prone to that, because it's part of the challenge described in your birth chart, the challenge of mind management. The big thing to say next is that on the 5th of February, Mars transits from Vedic Pisces to Vedic Aries. And that means that Mars is going through the Gandanta. And the Gandanta is the transition point from water sign to fire sign. There are 3 of them, and obviously Pisces to Aries is one of those water sign to fire sign transitions. And basically, the energy of each Gandanta is that if you have a planet in it, you will know that this world, this material world, is not really here for you, not really supportive. And that gives you the opportunity to go beyond, to connect to the divine root of consciousness world that is beyond the material world. We need the material world to try and learn, to grow and heal ourselves and achieve. But it's not the real world. The real world is the divine world beyond.